Hello, welcome back. Mike from Canavan Wealth. It's my favorite day of the week, Tuesday. Time for Mike Reads the Journal. It is May 16th. Market is down a little bit today, but for the 5 day, we are just barely positive since we talked a week ago. We've been kind of trading what I've started to call along the top now. So we've been in this, as of a month ago, we're down about 0.75%. You can see this is 3 months now that we've been trading kind of in this band, really no higher than about 4150 and lower than about 4050, 4,000. This is not surprising to me. I think until we get solid evidence that the Fed is done raising interest rates, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of market movement. There's just too much uncertainty with what is going on with the banking system and interest rates and everything, that I think we're going to be kind of here for a while. We will not see any actual action out of the Fed until July. So we've got another month and a half, I think, until we really see anything moving now. The market will almost always prove me wrong, so we'll just have to see. All right, great articles today. This first one is about defaulting and the ongoing discussion with politicians about raising the debt limit. I think we covered that last week. Specifically, this just shows that the 1 month Treasury bill going from a low of 3.25, although it's about an average about 4.25 over the last year, up to almost 5.5. The reason this would go up is if people were uninterested in buying it because they worried about a default, then effectively face value would have to drop, which would make the yield of it go up. So this is just showing that there's some fear around what's going on with the default. I would be shocked if either side lets this default. They'd be idiots if they did. And both sides would be to blame, in my opinion. But all right, we talk a lot about China, a lot about demographics. This I thought was particularly interesting. It is data around joblessness, unemployment among particularly young people in China. So this is the graph of unemployment in general in China, around 5.5, not crazy. But this is young people, which was a low of 10% as recently as 2019, now up to 20%. That is dramatic. Now, I really want to see this chart next to India and the US, right? I want to know, is this a global trend that people are just entering the workforce later, or is this something specific to China? But of course, I don't have that data in this article. This video, it was interesting. This shows demographics in China and India. India on the right here, China. You see, how many young people there are versus old people, and then they're going to shift. This is projecting into the future, and you see just how bottom light China becomes compared to a country like India. You do see India's population starting to draw down, which as nations develop, that's just normal. This is just showing that India is catching China. So what I think is so interesting about this is the problem that people are projecting with China is that they are not going to have enough young people. And yet it is those exact people that can't seem to find jobs now. If they're not finding them there, they're going to go somewhere else. And is that going to exacerbate the problem? Is this just a temporary thing until a lot of people in the workforce leave? We saw that here in the US as the baby boomers started to retire, right? It was kind of a tough time for very young people for a while, and then the baby boomers started to retire along with COVID, and we saw this great shift up. They often call it the Great Resignation, because people were resigning from their job to take other positions elsewhere where they were kind of getting that promotion that they had been waiting on. So very interesting to see demographics. It doesn't entirely make sense to me in terms of this. We don't have a lot of young people, and yet they're all unemployed. So interesting. All right, this was what I'm really excited to talk about, which is the kind of reporting on what's going on the border now that Title 42 has expired a week or two ago. I don't remember the exact date, but it hasn't been long. It was very interesting to see what happened. They had kind of daily reporting on this that I followed through. And what we thought was going to happen, which was this big surge after Title 42 expired, really didn't happen. The surge actually came before Title 42 expired. Word effectively got out that The next rule was not going to be any better than the current rule, so you needed to kind of get in before Title 42 expired. So they did see a surge before Title 42, but it seems that surge just occurred, you know, while people were in transit. They kind of got like, oh, you need to get there by whatever date in order to get through before Title 42 expires. So that was interesting. And then we have not seen this big surge after the fact, but it's probably too early to tell there, right? People, it takes months for these people to migrate up. So we may not see that fall out for a while. So that I thought was interesting because if you remember back, I used to talk, throwing my book around, this book, Good Economics for Hard Times, one of the first few chapters, which is absolutely excellent, is about immigration, why people move. And the fact that we have not seen this giant surge, or we're not like detecting the giant surge after Title 42 expires, kind of helps cement their point, which is after 40 years of studies, and that people do not migrate based on what's going on at the country they're migrating to. They almost always migrate because of what is happening where they currently are. They can't find a job. There is some type of political unrest. They don't feel safe. There's violence, something along those lines, civil war. That is largely why people migrate. We have largely understood that the surge at the southern border has been because of problems in Guatemala, Colombia, Venezuela, things like that. People, looking for a better life here in the U.S. So the fact that we're not seeing a major shift in who's coming to the country based on our policies does not surprise me, nor I think would it surprise the authors of this very, very good book. All right. So then a little while ago, we covered, the new policies. So this is how the new immigration system works. This is really good. I'm not going to go through it all. I will provide the link in the description. This is the Wall Street Journal's explanation of how the new policy works. Now, there's a little bit of change over what's going on the border. So this talks about, what goes on the border and effectively the things that end in deportation versus that end in the courts. And this is a really long process if you get here at the border, and it is not good. I don't think anyone thinks that this process is wonderful. And to be perfectly honest, it doesn't seem like these most recent policies are really going to change too much here. That was my kind of take on it. I'm sure people would disagree with me. However, I think the big change here is right here, which is these brick and mortar, what they call regional processing centers. So effectively, we're going to build 100 centers in other places, first expected to open Guatemala and Colombia, that are places at these countries that we're seeing a lot of people coming from. It gives them the option to apply for citizenship, refugee resettlement, or eligibility for work visas in the US. And this, I think, is a really big, really positive change where we talk about a way that we are actually going to stop people from showing up to the border instead of just how we deal with them at the border. So I know no one is excited about these changes out of the Biden administration, specifically about what's happening at the borders. Conservatives are never going to like it, and liberals are, not happy with the fact that there's still really widespread deportation and a humanitarian crisis at the southern border. But this is at least something that we're trying that's different, that's trying to fix this problem kind of at the source, get people to stop showing up to the borders. So I think, I want to give it a try. And then there's all these kind of humanitarian sponsor programs. I'll let you read through this. So Title 42, the expiration really not playing out the way we thought it was. And then a really, really good article in depth. Hopefully you guys can hear the mowers are outside, over, kind of how the policies are changing after Title 42 expired. So check those out in the description. And it's not here, but the seminar is in 2 days on Thursday. Social Security should be a really good one. You can reserve a spot for that on the website, canavanwealth.com. Plenty of room. And like the video and subscribe if you like this content. Otherwise, I hope it's been informative. I will talk to you soon. Thank you.